Hey everyone, welcome to the Pace Studios in New York City. We are here today with Steve Earle. Steve, thank you so much for being with us today in New York.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So you got a new record coming out this Friday. It's called So You Want to Be an Outlaw. You're going to play a few songs from that for us today. Can you tell us a little bit about the first one you're going to do for us?
Yeah, this is like I wrote a couple of songs for the TV show Nashville. One because T-Bone Burnett was the music director and he asked me to, and I never saw the show. I just read the script and then Buddy Miller asked me for another one. This is the one that I wrote when Buddy was the music director, and that kind of got me started on the idea of making a record that sounded like this again, because it all ended up sounding kind of like a Waylon Jennings record I was listening to when it got right down to it. But this is called Looking for a Woman, and this just happens to be the track we're pimping right now. So. Hangover ringing like a hammer in my head, but I can't rest no matter what I do, 'cause I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Well, I've been to town, downtown too, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. East Coast, West Coast, Timbuktu, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Bayou, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Just can't shake these lovesick blues, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Well, I thought about Melissa and I thought about Sue. I thought of my sister, but she's meaner than you. Evangeline, Carolina, Rose will never do, 'cause I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Well, I've been uptown, downtown too, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. East Coast, West Coast, Timbuktu, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Bayou, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Just can't shake these lovesick blues, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Thanks.
Thanks much, Steve. So the record, it's called So You Want to Be an Outlaw. Makes me wonder immediately who's the you in that title? Who you talking to?
I don't know. I think it was just the idea of that there's a song called "So You Want to Be an Outlaw," and it's just I wanted to rehabilitate the term outlaw, and it was it's one of those things like rockabilly and a few other words have been applied to music, usually after the fact by somebody that wrote about music rather than somebody that played it, and to describe something that I was part of. It's what was going on when I got to Nashville, when I left Texas, and when I got to Nashville, and it was going on both places. And it, there's been a lot of. I'm on a satellite radio channel called Outlaw Country, and that's supposed to be about this music, and it is, but it's also sometimes some of the people that I run into there think that it's about lifestyle. I even had a journalist in Australia the other night, fun interview. Well, it was really about the lifestyle, how you guys were living, and it wasn't. It was because look, George Jones wasn't going to a liquor store at 4:30 in the morning on a lawnmower. There's no liquor stores open at 4:30 in the morning in Tennessee, and they're only open that time of night in New Orleans and Vegas, as far as I know.
Plenty of lawnmowers, though.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing of there were other drugs that were consumed in Nashville for a long time before, Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings came along. It was about artistic freedom. It was about Doug Somm, as in the Sir Douglas Quintet, basically was on Atlantic Records and made essentially a country record and Jerry Wexler had signed him, and he told Jerry Wexler, if you want to sign a progressive country artist, then sign Willie Nelson. And Willie had just moved back to Texas, and that started Willie playing Armadillo World headquarters. That led to the Dripping Springs reunion, which I was there, and the first Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic, and I was there. He bought tickets for both of them. And then the next year I went on to Houston. I met Townes Van Zandt when I was 17, which gave me an introduction to Guy Clark by the time I got to Nashville. And Willie was in Austin. I didn't stay in Austin because the weather was too good and the dope was too cheap and the girls were too pretty. I knew I'd never get anything done there, so I went to Tennessee, and Waylon was in Tennessee. So this record has a lot to do with Waylon Jennings for me, just because I ended up playing electric guitar on nearly all of it and unapologetically channeling Waylon Jennings, at least as a guitar player, through the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, what's curious to me about it is like these three guys. You, Willie Nelson, Waylon. You guys are all Texas guys who wound up in Nashville. That's the home of country music. So do you have that sense of love, loyalty, that kind of Nashville pride that we see a lot of people who come through here? Nashville is their beating heart, whether they're from there or not.
Right.
But you guys came up from Texas. And we had Lady Antebellum in here yesterday playing.
Yeah, I ran into him up at Sirius yesterday because they were coming to when I was.
They were talking about how they had to leave Nashville to make their latest record. It's gotten to maybe a point where it's like they
leave
feel
Nashville
more
to
creative
make
elsewhere.
Copperhead Road.
Yeah,
to make a record different than and to sort of. I figured out I needed to establish some sort of independence from depending on country radio, because I knew I wasn't going to last at country radio. I had a few spotty performances on the charts, but I got lucky and I signed a good enough publishing deal around that time because I had a #1 country album right at the moment that my deal ran out, and I was able to live on my publishing money and put the band on a cheap bus and stay on the road. And we built what's still been a career for me, mainly by touring. So we did it more like a rock band, and that's what Waylon and Willie were doing. They wanted to make records the way rock bands did. They wanted the artistic control, use their own band in the studio, which was unheard of. People just didn't do it. And Honky Tonk Heroes, which was a record of nearly all Billy Joe Shaver songs, all but one, and Waylon using his own band in the studio for the first time. And it's kind of the Exile on Main Street of rock and roll. It's a really, really important record.
Yeah. And so this I know this album sort of made in his spirit, channeling him. What's the next song going to play for us? What's that? What's the story with that one?
I'll do Outlaw. This is like, once I knew what the record was, I'd written 2 songs, and then I figured out what I wanted the title to be, and I wrote this, and I think when I wrote it, I thought I wasn't sure I could pull it off, but I did always have in mind Willie Nelson singing the second verse when I wrote it, and I'm honored that he did. So, but I'll have to. He's not here, so I'll have to sing.
Yeah,
it
he's
today.
not waiting back in the wings.
Yeah. So you wanna be an outlaw, buddy, listen to me. Living on a highway ain't everything it's supposed to be. Everybody reckons that they wanna be free. Ain't nobody wants to be alone. Running down the alley at 2:45. Hollering for Sally, honey, what you trying to do to me? She said, go to hell, I'm going back to Tennessee. I said, Angel, you can never go home. Never go home. Never go home. If you wanna be an outlaw, you can never go home. So you wanna be an outlaw, better listen up, kid. Steal $1 million and you have to keep it hid. Ain't no place to spend it in the desert if you did. Can't take it with you when you go. Something always laying for you up around a bend. Everything that goes around come back around again. Can't trust anybody, not a lover or a friend. Mama, maybe then you never know. Never do know. You never do know. If you wanna be an outlaw, then you never do know. An outlaw, boy, you better think twice. Better not pout, better not cry. Ain't nobody give a damn about you when you die, but the devil when the come for his due. When you're standing at the crosses, don't you try to flag a ride. Don't you get down on your knees, don't you know it's already been tried. Hate to tell you, but the only upside, you sing the devil out of the blues. Singing the blues, singing the blues. Sing the So You Say You Wanna Be an Outlaw blues. Hey, hey.
Thank you. So in that song, you know, I was reminded listening to you sing about the blues. We had Justin Townes Earle in this very studio just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
You guys got records out at the same time, new records. His just came out a few weeks ago.
He came up. He was on my radio show when he was up.
I think he actually was going on your radio show the day he was here.
He probably was. He was just doing
the rounds,
Midtown things.
Yeah, right. So you know, one thing I've been listening to both of you guys for years, and you know, I know that he's gone sort of in a kind of a bluesy direction. He's got more of a blues streak, I think it's fair to say, than you do.
I mean, I had to sort of intentionally revisit it when I made. Though it's always been part of what I do, and but you know, like I made a blues record. The last studio record was called Terraplane, and I focused on that intentionally. But it's always been part of what I do. Bluegrass was a big influence, like that kind of, you know, I heard that kind of folk music, for lack of a better term, but when I got to Nashville, the other thing besides the circle of songwriters around Guy Clark and Townes and those people was John Hartford was there. And that was the other sort of bohemian circle, was the bluegrass players with long hair that all kind of gathered there because John Hartford was there. When the Glenn Campbell show ended, you know, he decided to come back east and he settled in Nashville. And it was it left a big hole when Hartford passed away. It was like kind of one of the things that gave me permission to move and finally come to New York was once, you know, John was gone, that was sort of half of the center gone, and now Guy's gone, so, you know, last year. So it's that whole, there's a whole lot of things going on in what I do, and I sort of, and maybe it's my problem, I have a hard time focusing on one forever.
Yeah, there's an idea that, you know, when blues and country kind of come together, sometimes it sounds great and you make classic music. Sometimes it sounds like kind of a lesser version of either one of those two things. Justin seems to be doing it like he's got almost sort of a formula that's been sounding great. And I guess my curiosity was like seeing now that he's got some records under his belt, thinking back on your career, you know, seeing that trajectory, what you make of like his direction versus sort of the way that you see, you know, the way you've gone over these years.
He's had to do what he's had to do. I had, by the time Justin started making records, I couldn't tell him anything about the music business because it had changed so much right as he was starting to make records.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you know, nowadays the good news is anybody can make a record. The bad news is anybody can make a record. And it's not, it's harder to get records heard because the media itself is so all over the place and diverse, and that's a good thing too on a lot of levels, but it's also way harder to get a majority of people in any market or in a lot of markets listening to the same thing. You can't even make radio stations play the track that you want them to anymore. You know, I have friends that, you know, that missed the old, you know, hookers and blow thing, and they thought that was a music business that they understood. It's just, I paid him and he played the record. That's how American does it get, you know. So now, you know, you can pay somebody to play a record, but it won't do any good because they'll probably turn around and play whatever track they on the album that they want to anyway.
Yeah, right.
If they care about your whole album in the first place. The album as a format is not as important to younger people as it was. My middle son, Ian, who's the child of mine that was smart enough not to get in the music business, he's like, when he was about 11, he plays, but he just doesn't do it for a living. But I caught him downloading, and this is in, you know, the Napster age. This is when we were all talking about it. It was a new thing. We were freaking out about it. So I was like, so what causes you to engage in this activity that threatens your chances for a college education? And he was like, most music sucks, and I just want the music that doesn't suck. So the discussion about what happened to the music business, the mainstream music business, you know, it's always about downloading and this and that, and millennials don't want to pay for anything. And those things are true, but they're not all there is to it. There's also a thing that happened. I blame a lot of it on bad songwriting. I think there was this idea, business-wise, that people had to write their own material. And you know what? God only makes so many songwriters when he gets up in the morning, and it's like not everybody was made to be a songwriter. That's what Tin Pan Alley was about. So there's a lot of people that can't sing that can write songs, and there's people that can sing and write songs. And Bob Dylan was the one that sort of changed everything. And anybody that thinks Bob Dylan, can't sing, I don't even want to talk to. But he did change everything. He elevated it to literature. So I came up in that era. So I sort of accepted that the bar had been permanently raised, and music was always going to be literature, and that songs were going to be literature from now on, and they were going to be commercially successful literature from now on. And it's turned out that the latter is not necessarily true. Maybe being a singer-songwriter in that mold is going to be like being a bluegrass player or a jazz player. You'll make a good living at it, but maybe it's not a mainstream part of the music business.
Right, you're in sort of your area of the industry.
Yeah.
So as far as this new record is concerned, from a great singer-songwriter who can do both sing and write songs, tell us about the last one you got for us today.
Well, this was kind of a song that was written separately from the others. It was because it was written first, and but it didn't fit into the blues record, and Sean Colvin and I couldn't sing it together. And but thematically it fits into this record perfectly. It's one of 3 acoustic things on the record, and it's been around for a while. This is called The Girl on the Mountain. There's a girl up on the mountain I once knew. Let her go, now I'm sad and blue. Sometimes late at night I pray she'll come down to me someday, but the girl up on the mountain never knew. So she gave herself to someone else back then. Thought I'd never see her face again. I found a new love of my own, broke my heart and now she's gone, but the girl up on the mountain still remains. Wish I may, wish I might, on every star I see tonight, 1,000,000 diamonds up above, shine down on the one I love. The poets have 1,000 tales to tell. about love that didn't work out well. Me, I sleep alright at night, 'cause in my dreams I hold her tight, but the girl up on the mountain's up there still. I love her now, guess I always will.
Thank you. That was
Thank
beautiful. So you are in New York. I think you're doing a Brooklyn show tonight. You got a Manhattan show tomorrow night. Is that right? I'm pretty sure that's right.
I live here. I lived in New York for 12 years.
I know you were full time here. Right?
Yeah, I have been for a long time.
So you're playing in New York this week.
Yeah, I am. I'm doing
general.
an in-store tonight in Williamsburg at Rough Trade, and signing some records. Just do a short set, acoustic set, and buy my record. That's what I'm doing, and I'm doing it kind of across the country. I've already been to England to do it, and already been to Canada to do it, and then tomorrow night at the Iridium in Manhattan, it's actually a taping for Speakeasy, a PBS show, and it's myself and David Simon, who's a friend, and for the guy that it's his fault if you don't like my acting. It was his idea for me to be an actor. He's supposed to be interviewing me, but we usually end up interviewing each other when we get in the same place, and so that's what that is. And that's tomorrow night at the Iridium at 8:00, I believe.
Right, and then So You Want to Be an Outlaw out on Friday.
It's out on Friday. The tour will start. I have my songwriting camp at the end of the month. I go across the country, playing records. Mom and pop record stores are important to me. I'm playing a lot of record stores across the country and visiting some radio stations to promote the record. And then I come back the 26th, start Camp Copperhead in Big Indy in New York, which is my songwriting camp. And we still have some spots. And then the tour starts July 1st in New Braunfels, Texas, and we'll be out all summer and into the fall. And then we go to Europe.
All right. Hey, man, Steve Earle, thank you so much for visiting us here at Pace today. And good luck with the tour and the record.
Thanks.
Come back anytime.
Thank you.